All right, so when you think of famous actors of the '80s, you think of people like Robin Williams or other people that I can't think of right now. But there's one man that people really need to pay their respect to, because someday he will be dead. That is Michael Winslow, known for not only his acting and beatboxer. He is the comedian, billed as the man of 10,000 sound effects because of his ability to do realistic sound effects with his voice.
And he was also the cop on Family Matters. The cop dad.
Yes, he was. Most people think I'm talking about Carl Winslow. I'm talking about Michael Winslow.
Oh.
Michael Winslow.
Carl Winslow's brother.
Yes, the younger brother of Carl Winslow. No, Michael Winslow, basically, actor, started back in the late 70s all the way to now. A lot of people might know him from the scene from Cheech and Chong's next movie at the welfare scene when he's doing those crazy sound effects, stuff like that. And a lot of more people might know him from Spaceballs as one of the radar detector guys. You might know him from that, but what you guys might not know is he was the guy that played Larvell Jones in all the Police Academy films from the 80s and early 90s. And he was actually born in Spokane, Washington in 1958. And then he was always known as kind of a loner when he was in high school. But then when he got into college or high school and graduated from that, he started learning how to do like engine sounds, animal sounds, or anything with that makes noise whatsoever with his voice. Then he started performing at nightclubs and theaters, everything like that, with his sound imitations, and it won him a lot of positive praise. And he got enough money to move to Hollywood to become an actor and everything like that. So I thought it'd be a good idea to tribute this guy by ranking all the Police Academy movies from worst to best. Now you're saying, why'd you pick this guy when Police Academy was basically a movie where Steve Guttenberg played like the character Mahoney, and he's forced to join the Police Academy because he's a repeat offender or go to jail, and he decides to join the Police Academy, and then you meet all these crazy characters, screwball characters, slapstick comedy ensues for all the movies in the franchise. So the reason I picked him is because along with Winslow, the guy David Graff, who played Tackleberry, and the older guy George Gaines, who played Commandant Lassard, are the only ones who have been in all the films. But Winslow went ahead of that, and he was actually in the TV show of the late 90s, the Police Academy series. He was like the only person in it.
Series?
Yeah, it was on for a whole season. And he also, is the only one that's alive right now. So I'm figuring that we might as well tribute this guy right now. I'm actually surprised he didn't lend his voice for the animated cartoon in the early 90s, if you remember that one too as well, Drew.
I do not remember that.
Yeah, there was a cartoon too. Did you actually watch Police Academy films?
I've only seen parts of them on Comedy Central.
Oh, so do you can chime in on this list if there's ones that you've seen, or if you want to disagree or agree with me where I rank them. I appreciate that. So yeah, Steve Guttenberg was the star of the franchise, but then they moved on to other people, which we will see. So there are 7 Police Academy films, and I'm going to tell you what they are from worst to best. So coming in at number 7, should be no surprise, Police Academy 7, Mission to Moscow, which came out in 1994.
I mean, just the fact that it came out in a different decade than the
other
rest
ones.
of the series.
That's my first thing I'm going to get to in a second. But before Ron Perlman started slumming it in like Hellboy and like the Sons of Anarchy TV show, he was in this disaster piece of a film. He plays like a mob boss who designs a Game Boy game that can hack into any computer and access personal files.
Yeah, seems like a real thing.
Yeah. And so the Moscow Police Department shipped in like the few Police Academy actors who agreed to be in this film to help. It's a horribly unfunny film. Terrible plot that took 5 years to make. Every Police Academy movie before that came out each year. This movie takes 5 years to make, and this is what they come up with. And this is some bull. It's actually an insulting to the franchise. Michael Winslow, he isn't getting really much to do like everyone else in this film, and there's like a lot of sound effects they put in, like cartoon sound effects that don't match what actually happened. It's such a terrible film. Do not see this movie whatsoever. And actually, what this film reminds me of, Drew,
Fuller House.
No, it reminds me of what happened with the American Wedding, the third of the franchise of American Pie. Basically, it's like, we want to do a sequel. Who can we get to be in it? And like slim pickings they get. It's like, oh well, this is all we can get. Let's think of a story now. It's a terrible film. Do not see it. It's the worst Police Academy movie I've ever seen. So coming in at number 6 of my Police Academy ranking, this was my least favorite movie until I saw the 7th one.
Damn.
So now it bumped itself up because that one was so horrible. It's Police Academy 5, Assignment Miami Beach.
Why do they got to keep going places?
Well, that's the problem with the franchise. And of my lower ones. So in this one, Commandant Lassard is being like honored as like the policeman of the decade in Miami Beach. So they fly down to like with them to like be there, and Captain Harris and Proctor, who are like the protagonists antagonists of the film, he's like I've got to go down there too to honor him and brown nose him because I want his job because they're forcing him to retire because he's so old. So they fly down there too. But one of the problems with this film is Steve Guttenberg, who was in all the other ones before that, opted not to be in this one because he's like, oh, I'm in these 3 minute in a baby movies. This franchise is going to take off, so I'm going to stop doing this.
What is he too good for Police Academy?
Yeah, so he's like, please,
Steve, you ain't too good for Police Academy.
He's like, I'm sure there'll be like 3 men and a teenager lady, and so on and so on. So he's like, I'm not going to be in those anymore. So what they do is they get like Lassard's nephew. And he's like a pathetic imitation of Mahoney, from like his womanizing ways down to like his pranks on Harris. It's like it's like a carbon pathetic copy of Mahoney, the character he plays in that movie. And also, not only is the acting terrible, but the movie feels like this like Saved by the Bell TV special, right down like the plot of like, oh, the criminals stole like these diamonds, and at the airport they mix up their bag with Lassard's bag, the old guy, and he doesn't know that, and they spend the whole movie trying to like get it back. So
I thought you were talking about the Saved by the Bell one where they have to save Kelly's grandfather's hotel or whatever.
Well, not specifically, but you watch this film, it's like, I can't believe this movie was actually in theaters, and it's like some Mr. Magoo. So that's my number 6. So this next one, these next two, I couldn't decide like where to rank them. So I had to like just pick one. So coming in at number 5 is Police Academy 2, Their First Assignment. And this one, Bobcat Goldthwait, makes his first appearance.
I've seen parts of this one.
Okay, so you're remembering him finally. So he plays like this like leader of a gang.
The most unlikely leader of a gang.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the Police Academy cadets are like asked to help out at that precinct because like apparently that precinct over there, they're getting so old that they like the Lassard's brother calls Lassard. He's like, oh, we need some younger blood, so he ships some people over to help out. And this one has no Captain Harris, unfortunately. Instead, the antagonist is like this guy named Lieutenant Mauser and his dim-witted sidekick Proctor. And this is the first where Winslow, Michael Winslow's character, Jones, he gets to like do like his like little kung fu like on a perpetrator, complete with like the vocal overdubbing, but he doesn't have like really much else to do besides that. There's a couple scenes
What else
there.
does he need to do, really?
Well, in some scenes, he's like someone's like eating, and then he'll like imitate them eating, and they're like, "Oh, that must be me making that loud noise." But other than that, it's like not giving him much to do because basically that movie, if you remember, Drew, Bobcat is like what steals the show every time he's in a scene. It's like it's stealing the whole movie. Like that part when they're in the supermarket just terrorizing the place up and, like stealing everything and like, oh, I had some good food here. A lot of great sales. And leaves.
Yeah, that's the problem because he would show up and to do a crime and everybody would be like, oh, I'm being menaced by this guy? Out of here.
Yeah, the movie has a lot of like, it's a lot less genuine comedy and it gets a little stagnant towards the end. Plus, it was is a sequel to the one that came out, so you can tell it's like, oh, this first one did so well. Let's do a sequel right now, and it suffers from that and the fact that it went from being an R rating to a PG-13 rating. So you can tell like the quality that goes down a bit. So coming at number 4 is Police Academy 3, Back in Training. And
This is the most confusing list ever.
how really?
Coming in at number 4, Police
No, it's a
Academy 3.
Yeah. Sorry, it didn't go like that order that you were thinking. So number 4 is Police Academy 3, and in this one, the city wants like to close one of its like 2 like academies, either Commissars or now Commandant Mausers. So of course, Mauser wants to do everything he can to make Lasar's team look bad, and then both academies recruit like new cadets, which means new characters.
Yay!
Like you get Tim Kazurinsky playing like the nerdy pushover Sweet Chuck. You get the stereotypical 80s like Asian character Tomoko Nogata.
Does he have big buck teeth and giant glasses and a bowl haircut?
No glasses, but the bowl haircut's there.
Oh, God.
And
I love Asian blackface.
yeah, and of course the return of Bobcat Goldwick as Zed, and him and like Sweet Chuck, together, that comedy gold right there. Michael Winslow does like get some more opportunities to like do like his sound effects, and he gets to like ad lib in this one scene when like the recruits are coming in, which looked like genuine off the cuff because the actors are laughing through it. So it's like this is kind of funny. Someone like the film suffers from like sequelitis, like I know you said before that term, since they rehash some jokes that they did in previous films, but it's still funny for like a PG movie because now that they went down to PG, which all the rest of them are PG rated movies.
Very confusing.
Yeah, so that's why.
What was wrong with the B&R?
Yeah, I guess they want to get a bigger audience, but that's why it's kind of equal to the second one, but I'm like, you know what? I'll give you some good points why it kind of bumped up ahead. So where are we at? Number 3 now, right? Coming in at number 3 is another one I had to fight with a little bit. Police Academy 6, City Under Siege, which was 1989, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say.
This is the first and last Police Academy movie I saw in theaters. And it's very funny slapstick comedy.
This is the last one in theaters.
Yeah. They even bring back, like, if you remember the character Fackler from, like, the first early ones, like the accent.
You're asking the wrong person.
I thought you saw the movies before.
I saw parts of the movies.
Okay. So he's, like, this accent-prone guy that in the earlier ones that he walks by something and, like, people hurt themselves, or he'll walk by, like, someone on a ladder, like, painting, and, like, the ladder will fall, something like that. So he comes back in the 6th one because he's been gone for, like, the past 2 ones.
Do you think that was his choice or the writer's choice?
It was like, we got to get some old blood back in here. So they pull this guy back, and he's even a bigger walk in his ass than he was before. Because like basically now, like if you even brush up against him, you'll get hit by a truck or something like that. He is that bad. He walks into a room and like walks down a hallway, and this like chaos happens behind him. He doesn't even see it happening. As for Michael Winslow in this movie, like his character, like he does his Bruce Lee and robot impressions. But he gets to like do like this brief like stand up impression during like a blackout in the movie where he does like this Jimi Hendrix impression, like with his mouth doing like guitar sounds and singing like Jimi Hendrix, like got the afro on his head. And the reason I put this movie so high is that goddamn plot, man. This is like the deepest like Police Academy plot I've ever seen in any of the movies. The crime wave happening throughout the city. It's like 3 crooks are instructed by like the shadowy figure to like always rob places, and they're always like one step ahead of like the cops every time. And not only at the end of the film are you surprised by who's behind like all the crimes, but you'll never guess who's been leaking all the info to like them the whole time. It's like mind-blowing film. I gotta knock off some points because this is the post Steve Gutenberg years, so they bring back that like knock off like Nick Lassard guy again. But at that point, you've seen the 5th one, so you're like, I'm kind of used to this guy, whatever. So I had to put that number 2. 3. So now coming at number 2, what I'm sure you can guess what it is. Number 2 is Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol. That was the last one with Steve Guttenberg. It's got a great balance between family friendly and actual humor.
This one was actually rated G.
Michael Winslow, he actually his character Jones is involved in a great prank with the new recruits, which includes a young David Spade, if you remember that movie.
I barely remember a young David Spade, let alone that movie.
Yeah. Well, he is. You don't remember the? Oh yeah. Well, he's actually a skateboarder, and Tony Hawk's in it too. So I'm throwing all these ideas out you for you to chime in. Like, I remember that episode, but I remember you said that you've only seen part of a film.
I remember Tony Hawk.
Yeah. So also Michael Winslow's character, he gets to do like this kung fu impression while fighting ninjas after like a jailbreak happens, and it's a smart move bringing back Captain Harris on this one as a nemesis, but it's a bad idea to have him on his part for having Proctor as a sidekick, because it baffles my mind how that guy became a lieutenant, because that guy is so goddamn stupid. I love this film to the point where I still remember this theme song, which I sung earlier, which was performed by Winslow. Plus, I'll watch it anytime it's on, which is, Comedy Central running. I'll watch that movie. It's really funny. Get a younger Sharon Stone in the film as like Mahoney's crush. You get Bobcat Goldthwait, and he gets a girlfriend in that movie, and that's kind of funny too. Yeah, it's good.
So does he just stick around, Bobcat Goldthwait? Is he a criminal in the later movies, or he's
reformed in the third one, and then the fourth one he comes back.
So he's kind of like Bobcat Goldthwait to Police Academy is kind of like Slimer to Ghostbusters, where he's like this monster that they're fighting, and then the next movie happens, and they're like, this guy's not too bad.
Yeah, it's basically that's a good analogy. That's a good point. So, no surprise, you guys. Number one movie is Police Academy, the first one from 1984.
I think that's actually what they called it, Police Academy, the first one.
Yeah,
that was the original.
Everyone had a colon except for this one. It's just Police Academy, the end.
All the actors had their colons removed.
Yeah. So similar to like the scene from Cheech and Chong's next movie, we are introduced to Michael Winslow in the waiting room atmosphere. This time in a police station where he does like a machine gun impression, like to scare everybody, and like
I remember that.
Yeah, Mahoney's like, "Oh, I like you. Let me bring him on."
I remember thinking, how do they not know what a machine gun sounds like? That's clearly a guy's voice. Like, it's just not loud enough to be a machine gun.
And they were like, "Oh, God damn it, stop doing that!" So that movie was the first one with the R rating, on the last one as well. So it gives the movie a chance for that adult humor, harsh profanity, raunchy sex jokes. Of course, you get like the Do we get a titty or two? You get lots of boobies. You get like the homophobic jokes here and there. It's interesting to see like Comet Lassard and Harris. Harris actually respects the man in this movie, because Harris at the time's a lieutenant, and he's like, Lassard's like his boss, as in all the films, and he respects the man. And speaking of Harris, he took no back then from Mahoney. Every time Mahoney pulled a prank, he had Mahoney doing push-ups in the rain, running for miles. He did not around. No Proctor to things up. So.
Everybody else can around except for Mahoney.
Yeah. Even Callahan, the girl that that blonde girl, she was the Proctor in that movie. So basically she was Harris's right hand woman, if you want to call it that. So how did she go from respecting Harris in the first movie to saying "F you, Harris" in the fourth one, and so on? They never addressed that. So it's just that was always weird to me. A classic moment in this film, the first one, is the guy I mentioned for Faulkner. He single-handedly accidentally starts a riot by just throwing an apple at the end of the movie. It's just that was a
as
genius,
happens.
Yeah, as ingenious scene, man. So yeah, that's the order of the Police Academy films. Drew, have you? If you want to get on those movies right now, that's the order you should watch them in reverse order from what I said. And you'll still follow the storyline too.
I'm gonna do in the order you said, because I'm
you want to see the
more
worst.
curious about Mission to Moscow than anything else.
I swear to God, if you'll never want to see that movie again if you get through it the first time around.
I like really bad movies. Well, I don't like them. I like picking them apart. I like looking at the ineptitude.
You have no idea what you're in store for. So, Michael Winslow, keep those voices going. You're an inspiration to us all, and when you pass away, it'll be truly a travesty for all directors who want to save money on the budget by hiring you to do the sound effects.